Hi guys, I'm Laura Vitale, and today, by popular demand, I'm going to share with you how to make homemade frozen pizzas. Now, this is actually really basic, but if you follow me on my vlog channel, which you should if you don't, that you know that I make my homemade frozen pizzas a lot because I have a really busy schedule, and it makes for really convenient lunches or dinners when I'm really short on time, but I still want something homemade. And the great thing about homemade pizzas is you can top them with anything that you want, except for like veg. I just suggest putting veggies on before you throw them in the oven rather than freezing the veggies on the pizza, because veggies contain a lot of moisture, and if they're frozen and they get all icy, then they melt and it gets soggy, yada yada yada. But today I just want to show you the process, that way you can make your own homemade frozen pizzas, and I promise you, you'll get so much joy out of doing that. I've been doing this for years. I used to do this when my brother and my sister were little, and I'll show you how easy it is. We're going to start off with some homemade pizza dough, and this is my no fail, ever so perfect pizza dough recipe. I've got all-purpose flour, salt, and sugar. I've got nice warm water, a little bit of olive oil, and then I have some active dry yeast and another little pinch of sugar right over here. So the first thing I'm going to do is my water is nice and hot. It's actually to about 110 degrees. You want it quite warm. I'm going to activate the yeast. I'm adding my yeast and sugar to my warm water, and I'm just going to set this aside just until the yeast starts blooming and it activates, it gets all foamy and incredible, and it's important that you do that, otherwise your dough won't rise. I'm going to make mine in my standing mixer that I have fitted with a dough hook attachment, but for now, all I'm going to do is add my flour, sugar, and salt to my bowl, and then just wait a couple minutes for the yeast so that the yeast can activate, and then we'll add it in. My yeast is ready. You can see it's like a big, puffy, yeasty cloud on the water. It's perfect on the surface, I should say. I'm going to add that straight to my dry ingredients. This is really easy. This is the pizza dough I go to 99.99% of the time, unless I'm buying it from my local pizza shop or something like that, because it just doesn't fail me. My dad gave me this recipe, and it's easy, works every single time, and it makes for the best pizza crust. I am just going to turn this on to about medium speed. I'm going to let this mix for about 5 to 6 minutes, or until I have a really nice, soft, smooth dough. Let it do its thing, and I'll show you the next step. Okay, that looks perfect. It's been about 4 minutes. And that is exactly what I'm looking for. Now, what I'm going to do, you can cut this into 2 pieces, because this will make 2 like 11-inch size pizzas. But what I'm going to do, because it's like 2 pounds here, 2-pound bowl of dough once you're done. What I'm going to do, because I like making smaller ones, kind of like individual ones, I'm going to cut this into 4 pieces. Try to get them as equal as you can. Look how beautiful this dough is. I love it. I'm going to cut this into 4 pieces, and then what I do is I just take each piece. I've done this so many times on my vlog channel, and so many of you have seen it. And again, it's just one of my favorite go-to things to have on hand, even if I have, not just for myself, but like if I had my niece and nephews stop over. It's just always something that you can throw in the oven last minute, and they, always love it. What I'm doing is basically making a little ball of dough, I guess, and just pinching the bottom so that it's all sealed like that. And I'm going to put mine in what I have here is just a baking dish that's been oiled with vegetable oil. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side, on all 4 of them. I'm going to do is just, you can see I'm just pulling them together into a ball, pinching the bottoms. All I'm doing is just adding a little bit of plastic wrap on each one. I'm doing 2 pieces of plastic wrap to make sure they're well covered. And then I just take a mop-in. And now I'm going to let these rise in a nice warm spot for about an hour or so, or until they've doubled in size, and then I'll show you the next step. Look at those beauties. Now, these have been rising for about an hour, maybe a little over an hour. I do have the oven on because I'm baking other stuff, so I'm cheating a little bit because it's really warm in that spot, so it's rising a little bit faster. Now, I have my oven preheating to 450. I also have a couple of baking sheets here. These are my beloved baking sheets that I've had for years. And now what I'm going to do, you can do this with a rolling pin. I sometimes do with a rolling pin. Most of the times I do this with my fingers. I have no oil, no nothing on my baking pans. I've nothing on my baking sheets. All I'm going to do is deflate, and try to keep them covered so they don't form a crust. I just deflate my little balls of dough. And then I just, same way I do my large pizzas, I do my mini pizzas. I do a little border around the edge, because that is important, because I need that. Add a little more flour, not too much, and then just stretch this out. Again, you can do this with a regular rolling pin if you want to, if you don't want to do this by hand, but I'm going to do this with my hands because it's easier. Now I don't need to stretch this too much because these are individual ones and I don't want these to be too thin. So this is about perfect for me. And then I just kind of reinsure that edge. See? They're perfect little mini pizzas. Great for a lunch, dinner, snack, whatever. And then I just do 2 at a time on my baking sheet. You have to pre-cook the crust. So I'm going to do another one. I'm actually going to do all 4. And then we'll get them in the oven. And just kind of fit them on your baking sheet the best you can. They don't have to be perfect, but they are going to be delicious. Now, these need to go in your oven for about 4 to 5 minutes. You're not looking for these to develop a lot of color. You're just trying to bake them halfway. So I'm going to pop these in, let them cook. In the meantime, I'll get some toppings ready, toppings of my choice that I already have in the fridge, and then we'll go ahead and assemble. And I'll just give you a few more tips before we pop them in the freezer. Now, these baked for 5 minutes, you can see they're very pale, but they're halfway cooked, and that's what you're looking for. Now, what we're going to do is make a couple, I'm just going to top them a couple different ways. Now, I'm going to keep this very basic because what I want you to understand is that the point of today's episode is to kind of show you how to make your own homemade frozen pizzas. You can top them with whatever your heart desires, but like I mentioned earlier, I would steer away from adding a lot of if you add, for example, like spinach and broccoli and things like that, just make sure that before you put them onto your pizza, they're like squeeze dry of any moisture, but they are going to freeze up and give a lot of moisture as well. So I suggest doing them fresh. Now, of course, you need some shredded mozzarella, which I have here. Then I like to make my own little pizza sauce. I've got tomato sauce, Italian seasoning, salt and pepper, and granulated garlic and onion. This is some pepperoni because I love pepperoni. And then I've got a little bit of garlic that I grated, olive oil, and just a pinch of Italian seasoning. Because I'm going to make 2 pizzas that are white with just garlic oil and cheese, and then 2 that are going to be pepperoni pizzas. And the reason why I'm making white is because I could just throw them in the freezer, and then whenever I want a white pizza with prosciutto, or if I've got some leftover veggies, I can just throw them on. Pizzas will be frozen. I can just throw them on and I'm good to go. So first things first, I'm gonna mix together my tomato sauce with all of my spices, and you do this as taste. You could add a little more salt, a little more pepper, a little more Italian seasoning. It's completely up to you. And then also the garlic oil. The garlic oil for me is absolutely crucial when making a white pizza. That's what mama likes. Okay, now what I'm gonna do is just you assemble your pizzas like you normally would. I'm just going to do some of the tomato sauce, and I'm totally aware that they're not perfectly round, but that's how they fit on my baking sheet. So you're going to have to adjust how these fit on yours. You can do multiple baking sheets if you want to, but then that'll be too much cleanup. And I don't roll that way. And then you just top them with your shredded mozz. Or you can do provolone, you can do whatever. Of course, this is all optional. This just happens to be things I always have on hand. And that's the whole point of making your own anything, especially when it comes to like convenience food, is being able to really tailor it to what you have, what you like, what you always have like bits and pieces of in the fridge and freezer. That's one of my favorite ways to make pizzas and to make omelets and to make stir fries. It's just whatever I've got is what I'm going to use, and that's what I really want you to focus on, is not having to do things exactly how they're written. Just tailor them to what you prefer. And then I like to do pepperoni because I love anything pepperoni. You guys know it's my absolute favorite. This happens to be turkey pepperoni. I quite like it actually. I think I like it better than regular pepperoni because it doesn't give out as much fat, like as much grease on the top of the pizza, but it still tastes exactly the same in my opinion. Okay, so those 2 are done. And now I'm going to work on the white pizza, which doesn't get any easier than that, because all you're going to do is brush your garlic oil liberally on the crust, because this is kind of like seeping in as it bakes. It will seep in and all those spices will just infuse throughout the crust. And I'm just going to leave it white with just cheese, and then whenever I want to bake it, maybe I'll put a little bit of ricotta on it, maybe I put a little bit of vegetable on it, prosciutto, whatever. That's the beauty of white pizza. You can even do like fresh tomatoes as it comes out of the oven, whatever you like. And then I just put some mozzarella on top. And then you want to put them into freezer bags. Now what's really important is that you put them in a sealed bag. I have tried putting them in like multiple layers of like a plastic wrap, and it's fine and all, but from opening the freezer, you know, all those ice crystals form on top of the pizza because it's not all the way, it's not really sealed. And it gets it all kind of gunky and it doesn't bake well. It kind of gets soggy in the middle because of all those ice crystals. And I don't want that. So I suggest getting some really big, you know, freezer bags, and this works perfectly. I can stack them and it's good to go. And also, here they are. And also, you can make, I made 4 good size pizzas. You can make 6. You can make them smaller. You can make them whatever size you want. But I'm just going to wrap these up and then I'm going to just stack them. I'll show you what they look like when they're stacked first. Okay, last one. They fit perfectly. I might have done this a time or two. Okay, so this is how simple it is. Look, you don't even need to pre-freeze them before you bag them. There's absolutely no need to do that. I found that you get nothing from that. I'm gonna just pop this into the freezer, let them freeze completely. Now these will last like a good 3 to 4 weeks. They won't last that long in my freezer, but point is they will stay in good shape for that long. I'm gonna let them freeze completely, and then I'll show you how they bake up, and I'll give you a couple tips as well if you don't have a baking stone to bake them on. Now my pizzas are all frozen, and I have one to show you kind of how I bake it. The oven is preheated at 450. I like my oven to be really nice and hot when I bake my pizzas. If you don't have a baking stone, which I think everyone should have, or a baking steel that you put in your oven, you kind of leave in your oven to bake all your breads, all your pizzas, because it gives you a really great crust. If you don't have one, take a baking sheet, or this is a cookie sheet. This is normally how you use it. Flip it upside down and put it on the lower shelf in your oven and let it preheat with the oven. That way you have a really hot surface and it will kind of act like a pizza stone. So that's a great tip for you if you don't have one or you don't want to invest in one because you don't do a lot of bread baking or pizza baking. So if you don't do any of that, then you certainly don't want to just buy one for one particular recipe. So this is a really good tip to use pretty much all the time. Now I already have one in the oven. My pizzas, these are frozen, okay? You can see quite hard. These are frozen. These were in the freezer for about 3.5 hours. I'm gonna put this in the oven just like this, and it'll be in there for about, I don't know, 10 minutes or so, or until it gets really lovely golden brown and crispy on the bottom and melty, cheesy, gooey on top. I'll show you what it looks like when it's done, but I already have a baking sheet flipped upside down in the oven, so I'm just gonna slide this one just right on it and bake it till it's done. My pizza baked for 10 minutes exactly at 450, and I want you to hear the crunch. Hold on. Hold on. You hear it? Listen, listen. Look at the bottom. Look at the goldenness. Look at the gorgeousness. It's a beautiful thing, you know. It's hot. Really hot. But that is perfection. I mean, the convenience of having your own like frozen pizzas on hand that you can feed anyone at any minute, like to me, that's like happiness. That is like, I love to feed people to a brim any chance I get. This is just a great way to use up any leftovers. If you got a couple of afternoons during the week that you want to devote to some, you know, make ahead things, make one of these, like make a batch of these, keep them in the freezer, have them ready. You can see that it's really simple. I just took you step by step to what I do. Let me know if you found this video helpful. Give it a thumbs up for future frozen video ideas, and let me know your ideas down below. Do you want to see frozen lasagnas? Do you want to see whatever frozen meals you want to see? Let me know in the comments down below. I always love reading your suggestions. Go to laurainthekitchen.com for a step-by-step sort of outline recipe of how I got this whole thing together. Hope you enjoy spending time with me, and I'll see you soon. Bye!